today's episode I'm going to show you how to make a delicious, thick, creamy, stick to your ribs mac and cheese, topped with a sweet, slow cooked barbecue short rib. To start, we are going to need approximately 600 grams of short rib, which we're going to place into a Dutch oven or casserole dish. We're going to coat that with 2 tablespoons of paprika for sweetness, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika, which will add a smoky undertone that you'll often get with barbecue meats. This adds an extra layer of flavour to the dish. We'll then add 4 to 5 whole cloves of garlic, which have been crushed. The reason I chose to do this rather than chop or use puree is the meat is going to be slow cooked 4 hours in a beef broth. These garlic cloves become soft and delicious, taste little morsels which work very well with the sweet barbecue meat. We then rub the spice mixture and the garlic into the meat, making sure it is thoroughly coated before leaving it to rest for at least 2 hours to soak up the flavour of the herbs and spices. Finally, we're going to cover the beef short rib with 1 litre of beef stock before realising how close the camera actually is and needing to wipe the steam off the lens. There we go. We now place this, the first thing we cover it and we place it in the oven, which has been preheated to 200 degrees Celsius or 400 Fahrenheit. And we cook it for 3 to 4 hours or until the meat falls off the bone, as can be seen here. For the final stage of this dish, we place all ingredients into a stove top pan, including the bones to deepen the flavour. We bring that mixture to a boil and cook this through until the sauce reduces and becomes relatively thick when stirred. To this mixture we now add 3 tablespoons of tomato ketchup and 3 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. We then mix this together, and unfortunately my clumsy arms hide this final step, but we also add 1 tablespoon each of honey and Dorsetshire sauce. Now Dorsetshire sauce is quite a specific sauce to get hold of. You can substitute this for Worcestershire sauce, or a simple light soy sauce can be used as a replacement. After we've added this, we stir it through once more, and we then simmer this down until the meat literally crumbles at the press of a fork. And now we have our delicious, sweet and sticky short rib. And there we go, the final product. And now on to the mac and cheese. To start with the mac and cheese, we're going to get a pan and sieve, and then realise that we've done this backwards, and instead we need to get our 3 tomatoes. Now, shock horror, yes, I put tomatoes in my macaroni cheese. My Mrs Faithless, loves tomatoes in her mac and cheese, so we always tend to put these in there. However, they are optional, and it does nothing if you remove them from the recipe. So what we're going to do, we're going to chop these into small chunks, place them in a sieve over a pan, and then we're going to add a pinch of salt to these chopped tomatoes. This will help draw out the juice and also accentuate the sweetness of the tomatoes themselves. Whilst the tomatoes are resting for an hour, we're going to take 250 grams of dry macaroni pasta and cook this till barely al dente in salted water, as you can see here. We're then going to very quickly drain this pasta and toss it straight back into the pan to ensure just a little bit of pasta water remains in the pan. We've also grated 150 grams each of Gruyere cheese, Manchego cheese and cheddar cheese for our cheese sauce mixture. Now, to do the cheese sauce mixture, we're going to melt 75 grams of butter in a pan. Now this is where the battery ran out of the camera, so what we did with this, we added 4 tablespoons of all-purpose plain flour into the melted butter, and we mixed that through and cooked the flour out. Basically when the smell of flour dissipates, we're then ready. I then started to add a mixture of 300 ml of double cream and 600 ml of milk to this flour and butter mixture, making a sort of bechamel sauce. Slowly adding this mixture and whisking continuously to ensure no lumps appear. And then finally we added salt to season. When we have our desired consistency, we're going to start adding our cheeses. We start with adding 90 grams of cream cheese. I chose Philadelphia because, well, it's a personal favourite of mine. I like the thickness, I like the texture, and I like the flavour. We're going to whisk this into the sauce until it is melted, and then we're going to add approximately half the grated cheese mixture. So in goes our cheese, and we're going to keep this on a low heat and keep whisking to ensure that the mixture does not catch to the bottom of the pan, because we don't want a burnt flavour in our cheese sauce. Once that is melted, we can then throw it in to our drained pasta and give that a good mix. The reason we only used half our grated cheese is that we are going to use the remaining half to layer the macaroni cheese like a lasagna. Trust me, this does work. So here we have our macaroni cheese mixture, all ready to be plated up, ready to be baked in the oven. So we're going to get an oven proof dish like so. Now at this stage I split into my mixture into 3 dishes, one for tomatoes, one for a very fussy little girl, and one for me later on. We place a layer of macaroni into the base of the dish alongside some of the grated cheese, like so. We're then going to add the chopped tomatoes, followed by some more of the grated cheese that remains, and then we're going to top that with another layer of macaroni cheese mix before finally coating it with the remaining grated cheese. We're then going to place it in a 200-degree oven or 400 Fahrenheit for 30 minutes until the cheese is bubbling and has a nice browning to it. And there we have it, a delicious, thick, rich 4-cheese mac and cheese. Or should we call it mac and 4 cheese? We're going to take our slow cooked barbecue short rib and place this on top, either hot or cold works, before garnishing with spring onion greens to add a little colour. Hello, welcome to the Faceless Chef UK. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to create a delicious carbonara, as authentic as I can. Yes, I understand traditionalists may pick this recipe apart, but I enjoyed it, as I am sure you will. Apologies for the absence, unfortunately this is not my full-time career, and due to this, children, health and family, I took an extended break over the Christmas period. First we start by placing 100 grams of spaghetti in salted or boiling water and cook until al dente, soft but firm enough to the bite. Note, once it's cooked, we do not get rid of this pasta water. This delicious salty starchy mix is key to this recipe, and to be fair, any other pasta recipe in the future for that matter. We really enjoy pasta dishes in this family, and often the best pasta dishes are those with few ingredients. Quick and simple sometimes is the best. If you like Italian style food, feel free to check out the arancini video I did towards the end of last year, and hopefully I shall be able to link that just above the screen. Whilst the pasta's cooking, I'm going to mix in a bowl 1 whole egg, and 2 egg yolks. We're going to thoroughly mix them until thoroughly combined before adding 150 grams of pecorino cheese. Once we mix this cheese in, the mixture should be quite thick, and alongside our pasta water, this is a mixture that will form the base of our sauce for the pasta. For some reason, the guanciale prep did not film, so this is around 150 grams of guanciale, which I will slice thinly before halving each strip into 2 again. We fry this in a pan, gently and over medium heat until the guanciale is brown and crisp, leaving the oil in the pan, but we're careful to ensure we remove half guanciale for later. If you don't have guanciale, you can always use, and I say this in order of preference, pancetta, lardons, or quite simply, bacon. We are going to leave the oil in the pan, however, because this will help with our sauce mixture later on. So once the guanciale is cooked, we're going to add our cut pasta, ensuring to include some of that delicious starchy water. And we're going to continually stir this. You will notice when the food begins to emulsify as it takes on a slightly thicker consistency and will begin to stick to the pasta itself. At this point, we are going to remove it from the heat completely. Once we've continuously stirred this mixture, we'll then, as I said before, remove it from the heat completely, and we will top it with our egg and pecorino mixture. Not before seasoning very well with black pepper. As you can see, I've fully got the heat turned off now. It's important to do this because if we don't do this, the egg will actually curdle and cook as you stir it through the mixture, so we definitely want that heat off. So here is our egg and cheese mixture. It does look quite thick at this stage, but that's fine. We're going to continuously stir this through. And this is one of those moments where you decide whether or not you want a quite saucy version or just something that barely coats the pasta. If you want it quite saucy like my missus, pardon the pun, you will add a little bit more pasta water and continuously stir whilst that mixture emulsifies and firmly coats the pasta. You have to excuse the big lumps of pecorino in there, but it's I found it very awkward actually when grating it. It did stick and break apart a little bit, but nonetheless it was all good. So once we've done this, we're actually going to coat again with black pepper, give it another season of black pepper before adding the mixture into a mixing bowl. And in that mixing bowl, we're actually just going to, for about a minute, toss it over and over, flipping the mixture, making sure that not only that sauce is coating the pasta, but also that it is well and truly emulsified. So we're then going to place this in a serving bowl. Look at that, absolutely delicious. Doing the voice for this, I'm thinking I could just murder another bowl of that, but I've run out of guanciale. I may have to put some more in order, or refer to my earlier points and just make some pancetta later on in the week. So once in the bowl, we're going to take half a guanciale, not half guanciale, but the guanciale half that we reserved earlier, and we're actually going to place that on top of the pasta. And again, after that, we will season with black pepper, and finally with some more of that grated pecorino. Just taking care to tidy up and clean our bowl. There's our black pepper. And here comes the remainder of guanciale. And then the grated pecorino. Some people do prefer a little bit of grated parmesan at this point, but I had some left over, so I thought I might as well use this. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to put our double O flour on the counter, make a well and place 3 large eggs in there, and we're going to slowly draw the flour in and keep mixing until it forms a workable dough. I'm a bit of a hatch job of it at the start, but here's the dough. You'll notice when it's nice and smooth and springs to the touch. We can wrap that in film and refrigerate for 2 hours. For the tomato sauce, we're going to gently fry some garlic in a pan. When that's cooked down, we are going to add our tin of chopped tomatoes, followed by red wine vinegar, a tablespoon of caster sugar, and a splash of salt. Towards the end of the cooking process, we're going to add 6 to 7 basil leaves. And that's our tomato sauce done. Now on to making the spinach and ricotta filling and the mascarpone topping. So we're going to wilt 125 grams of spinach in some hot water and leave that to sit for about 5 minutes. Whilst that sits, we're going to put our mascarpone into a mixing bowl with pecorino cheese and a splash of milk before mixing that to a smooth paste. We're then going to drain our spinach before squeezing out any excess moisture. I didn't have any cheesecloths left, so I used a kitchen towel. We're going to put that to one side and finely chop it. And then in a mixing bowl, we're going to firstly add our mascarpone cheese. Sorry, not mascarpone, ricotta. There's both our lots of ricotta cheese, and here is our spinach, and we're going to mix this together with a touch of salt for seasoning, again until it forms a smooth, consistent mixture. And there's our filling for our cannelloni. At the very end, I'll add just a touch of grated nutmeg, and again stir that through and leave that to settle for about 30 minutes. Onto the pasta dough. I'll explain this as quick and as simple as I can. I'm going to take my pasta dough ball which has been rested and I quarter it. Take each quarter and I roll it as flat as I can before tri-folding and re-rolling it, and then pass it through a pasta machine on the largest setting around 2 to 3 times before re-rolling it and tri-folding it again, and then passing it through the first setting once more. I then go through each of the numbers all the way up to the final setting, which on mine is number 9, until pasta is nice, thin and stretched. I will then leave that to rest for about 30 minutes. My pasta machine is a little bit wonky, so I do have to sometimes roll it a little bit further on the counter, but as you can see the counter through the pasta. That is a sign of a well rolled pasta dough. So I add a bit of my filling and then roll the pasta dough over the filling to form my first cannelloni tube, and I repeat this process by adding more filling, rolling the pasta over, cutting, and so on. I was able to get maybe 4 to 5 rolls per pasta strip. It is a very time consuming process, but there is a lot to be said for making your own pasta. Personally, I think it tastes fantastic. I think you can tell the difference between shop bought and homemade. However, there is no harm in using shop bought cannelloni tubes. I would recommend, however, a piping bag to allow you to put the cheese and spinach mixture into the cannelloni tubes with ease. Otherwise you just end up with a big mess. And here we have my cannelloni tubes all ready to be baked with the sauce. And to do that, I'm going to get a roasting tin and I'm going to put my tomato sauce that has been cut and left to rest and cool on the base. I'm then going to line my pan with my cannelloni tubes. And once that's done and nice and firm and compact, I'm going to take my mascarpone and milk and pecorino mixture, sorry, not parmesan, and I'm going to put that on the surface before topping with fresh mozzarella slices. And there we have it. Bit of black pepper on the top, and this is ready to now be roasted in the oven at 200 degrees for around 40 minutes. I did add a further, I would say, generous splash of pecorino on top before cooking. And there we have it, there's my spinach and ricotta cannelloni. It is a little bit time consuming, this recipe. I'd give it maybe a 6 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, but this will serve 4 people and it tastes absolutely fantastic. Even got a thumbs up from a little girl. Want a delicious tasting creamy mushroomy pasta dish? Then look no further, tune right in and follow the recipe till the end. Have fun. Tonight's recipe is a quick, ready in 10 minutes pasta dish, and one of the best things I like to do with penne pasta, particularly on a weeknight when the whole family is busy. Penne pasta with chestnut mushrooms, crispy bacon, leeks and dolcelatte. Enjoy the recipe and ensure you carefully watch to the end of the video to ensure you catch all ingredients and instructions. We start by placing penne pasta into a deep filled pot of salted boiling water. Whilst the penne is cooking, we can start to prepare our ingredients. Firstly, we thinly slice 250 grams of chestnut mushrooms, followed by cutting into small pieces 1 300 gram pack of unsmoked back bacon, then around 100 grams of sliced leeks. As I was not going to make use of a large whole leek this week, I went for the lazier pre-sliced rather than wasting half a leek before cooking. The ingredients would suit 3 to 4 people. The first cook was for Mrs Faceless and Little Mini Faceless, so I took around half of each prepared ingredient, although the pasta was measured by eye. After this, check the penne is al dente, remove from the water, but do not waste this lovely starchy water, we will need this for later. We leave the pasta to steam gently over the water to keep it moist and warm. We start by frying our bacon. Now, a little tip here, if you'd like that lovely crispy texture and appearance, add a good splash of water and cover. Allow the bacon to cook until your desired crispness. Some may prefer a softer texture for the dish, but I find it adds another texture to keep it as crisp as possible. We remove this from the pan. Then we add our sliced mushrooms. We're going to dry fry the mushrooms, which allows them to naturally release their own juices and add a deeper flavour, before adding our sliced leeks and gently cooking these down. We then return our crisp bacon to the pan. Give it a good mix through before adding a generous ladle and a half of the pasta water and cook this down while stirring to allow this mixture to emulsify. We then return the pasta to the pan and thoroughly mix this in before adding around 80 grams of Dolcelatte, stirring through and then leaving to temper for around 5 minutes. And serve. A hearty, filling 10-minute dish. Feel free to substitute with different ingredients, for example the addition of garlic or swapping bacon for guanciale, lardons or prosciutto. A delicious bowl of penne pasta with chestnut mushrooms, bacon, leeks and dolcelatte, topped with some grated parmesan. Delicious. Hello, welcome to another full-length instructional recipe for the Faceless Chef UK. In today's episode I'm going to show you how to make a delicious, sweet, sticky beef chow fun with homemade rice noodles. This was the first attempt at homemade beef chow fun and rice noodles, and although the noodles took some practice, I quickly learned that covering during the cooking process is key to ensure the rice noodles can be removed and sliced. We start by preparing the beef with a wet marinade for velveting. There is a card up above which will show you how to dry velvet should you wish. To do this, we thinly slice beef of choice, in my case 340 grams of beef medallions. Beef skirt is usually recommended however, but this is difficult to get a hold of where I live. Once the beef is thinly sliced, we're going to coat it in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. To that mix we're going to add 2 tablespoons of dark soy sauce and around 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing. We then give this a good mix, ensuring the beef is thoroughly coated before leaving it to rest for around 2 hours. This ensures the beef is succulent and tender when being cooked and eaten. We then get hold of a mixing bowl. With the rice noodles, we're going to add around 1 1/4 cups of rice flour, followed by 1 1/4 cups of water, pinch of salt, followed by 2 tablespoons of tapioca starch. It has been suggested that you could use cornstarch if you're unable to get hold of tapioca starch. We're then going to give it a good whisk through before straining through a sieve back into another mixing bowl. We then finally add 1 teaspoon of oil onto the surface of the mixture and we leave this to rest. Before using, we're going to ensure that we give this mixture a good whisk because the rice flour does settle at the bottom of the bowl. The cooking method I used, I did modify slightly from what I'd read. I used 2 oiled 9-inch cake tins and placed 1/3 to 1/4 of a cup of the rice noodle mixture in each. Therefore, one can be cooking whilst the other is being removed and sliced. Bringing a pan of water to the boil, we place one of our tins on the surface of the water. Because I have a poor choice in pans and a small wok, I had to make sure that this was carefully balanced so the mixture did not slide and allowed it to cook evenly. However, this did take 3 or 4 attempts before I learned that covering the pan during the cooking process leads to a much firmer and moist noodle and therefore stops the rice noodle sheet from cracking and drying out throughout the cooking process. Once it's cooked, we can lay it on a oiled surface before lightly brushing more oil on the top of the noodle. This allows us to avoid the noodles sticking together when we contain them for later use. So we take our noodle sheet and we are going to thinly slice it into around 2 cm wide pieces or strips. We can then place our noodles in a container where these should be good for at least 24 hours, 2 days. However, I left mine to rest for around 2 hours. When cooking, they really do need just a quick warm through. For the final part of the recipe, we're going to heat a wok till smoking and add 2 tablespoons of oil before adding our velveted beef and browning that quickly in the pan and then removing. Once the meat is browned, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of oil to the wok before frying a thumb-sized piece of ginger that has been peeled and sliced. I like to add a bit of water at this point to help deglaze the pan. Once that ginger cooks through, we'll our browned beef back into the mixture. And once that's heated through, we're going to take the greens of 5 spring onions and slice them into 1-inch strips. In this case, because I was making it for 2, only around 2 to 3 went in at this stage. I do have a small wok. So we'll heat that through, gently tossing through the pan before adding 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine, 2 tablespoons of dark soy sauce and 2 tablespoons of light soy sauce. Again, we stir this through, keeping the ingredients on a medium heat and gently tossing through in the pan before adding MSG, sugar and white pepper. When that's cooked, we add around 50 grams of bean sprouts. Now these take very limited time to cook, so we're going to do this is literally the last couple of minutes of the dish. Once our bean sprouts are added and cooked through, we can then finally add our rice noodles to the mix. At this point, we're going to roll the mixture or gently toss the mixture through the wok, as overworking this can break the rice noodles, so we need to take this final step very carefully. Finally, we throw in some spring onion greens to add a little bit more colour and texture to the dish. Before, as an optional step, if you like a slightly sweeter dish, we can add 1 tablespoon more of ketchup mani. Minnie Faceless loves the stuff, so whenever we have Chinese, it's always got to be added either within the dish or on the side for her to dip food into. The dish is now ready to serve. And there you have it, beef chow fun. A heartwarming dish, perfect for these cold winter months. I'm going to take a pork loin joint, about 2 kilograms. The reason I use pork loin is simple, it's tasty and tender whilst being good on the budget. Firstly, we're going to carefully remove the skin and fat layer from the meat. See the video later this week to see what I did with this remaining flesh. So as you can see, I'm taking great care to just slice between the skin layer and the meat, trying my very best not to slice my fingers off. Again, my knife cutting skills aren't particularly the best. I wouldn't recommend using my method to take the skin off, but if it works, it works. After removing the layer, we're going to cut the loin into evenly sized pieces before placing these pieces into a bowl, to which we're going to add around 3 tablespoons of dark brown sugar, followed by 2 tablespoons or so of muscovado, and then onto our liquids. We're going to add around 50 ml of honey and another 50 ml of maple syrup. Again, I do a lot of this by eyesight, but these are just rough ideas, so you can obviously tweak the recipe to suit your own flavours and tastes. Then add 100 ml of hoisin sauce. Now, if you can't get hold of hoisin sauce, you can substitute ketchup mayonnaise, which is a sweet soy sauce. My daughter loves it. We're then going to add 3 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine, 3 tablespoons of dark and light soy sauce, before adding 1 teaspoon of 5 spice powder, which will be coming up soon. There we go. Followed by 2 tablespoons, or 2 generous tablespoons of fermented bean curd. This is a fermented red bean curd. And for that extra red colour, I add a teaspoon of a red food colouring. I do warn you, this stuff is potent. You only need a tiny amount. Once that's all in, we're going to get our hands straight into the bowl and actually mix that thoroughly until every inch of each piece of meat is thoroughly coated in marinade. We're then going to wrap that up and leave this for around 24 hours and allow those flavours to deepen. When needed, we're going to preheat an oven to 200 degrees centigrade, which is about 400 Fahrenheit, before spacing evenly the meat on a wire rack and placing this in the preheated oven. Unfortunately, my video did cut out. There is a recipe for char siu shared earlier this year, but we're going to take the remaining marinade from the bowl and we're going to reduce that in a pan until it forms a thick slurry. And then every 10 minutes we're going to take the pork out of the oven and baste each piece of the pork with a thickened mixture. We'll continue to do this until the internal temperature of our pork reaches between 63 degrees or 68 degrees Celsius or 145 to 155 Fahrenheit. I go for the lower end as the meat is then rested for 10 minutes, so then it will continue to cook slowly. We can then slice the char siu and either cool and freeze for later use or use it immediately. I tend to like to steal a couple of pieces for me, but for the chow mein I did use a pre-made frozen pack, which we then took out of the freezer 24 hours before and defrosted. So there you have our nice char siu recipe. Simple, easy to follow, and the longest it takes is just 24 hours sat in the fridge marinating. Very little hands-on time is needed. And now on to our chow mein. The first thing we do is take 300 grams of 3 dried batches of Lucky Boat #1 noodles, or any other thick dry egg noodle will be fine. We're going to coat it in a freshly boiled kettle of water, and all we're going to do is leave that for 5 minutes. We're then going to drain the noodles, leave them steam dry. Some people do prefer to wash them in cold water to stop the cooking process, but I find 5 minutes is enough time, and not too much time that your noodles end up overcooked. And once they're steam dried, we're going to place them on a tray, spread them out to avoid them sticking to one another. And then we're on to our prep for the chow mein. We'll take our pre-made char siu and we're going to chop this into small bite-sized pieces. I'll literally empty them out of the tub and then just slice them lengthways. Did the job. After that, we're going to get 200 grams of bean sprouts. Now the bean sprouts are very quick to cook, so those are going to be one of the last things we place into the chow mein. We're also going to take not 1, not 2, but 4 pieces of garlic. And there we go. And then you have an option here. A lot of people do traditionally like to fan chop them. I like to slice them in a mandarin. And then take 2 small brown onions, peel half and then finally slice them. Before taking a bunch of spring onions, removing the whites and the heads. The whites were used in another recipe. I'm going to take off any remaining green bits that are looking a bit haggard, and then we're going to chop our green bits into 2-inch pieces. And then we're going to take our wok and preheat it till smoking. To that wok, we are going to add a ladleful or so of vegetable oil. Make sure that it's coating the whole of the pan. This will help to further season the wok for future. We're going to add our onions first, remembering to continuously stir these so they don't stick. When they've softened, we're going to add our char siu, and I'm going to cook that through till it's just warming up. Everything from here is pretty quick. We then throw in our noodles, ensuring to toss it through so everything is nice and mixed. To that, we're going to add some soy sauce, and I think I missed it on my video, a bit of sesame oil, before adding our bean sprouts and our spring onion greens at the very last minute. We're literally just going to warm them through to allow a bit of crunch to still exist from the bean sprouts. And there we go. There's our delicious char siu chow mein. Thank you very much for watching. If on Facebook, please feel free to comment, share, save or follow the page. Remember, my videos do appear first on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe over there. If you are on YouTube, please leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, grab a friend, get them to subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button to see more.